Way back in 2017, I was asked by a friend of a friend to photograph an event, and against my better judgment, I agreed to it. I was really nervous about it beforehand and sought the advice of other photographers for what to do and the best settings for such an event. And it was that point, before the event even began, that I'd completely screwed up the photographs. Hello there, I'm Dave. This is Let's Click Photography, and in today's video we're going to talk about why there are no best settings. My first ever event, a charity event for a friend of a friend in 2017, I screwed up the photography because I was following the advice of many photographers online who were telling me the best way to set up my camera and the biggest challenges that I would face, and being fearful of ISO. Because everybody who was taught to, everybody who sought some advice from, all told me the same thing, that ISO would be my biggest challenge, and that high ISO would ruin the images, would wreck the photo shoot before I even started if I was going to use high ISO on this Canon APS-C hobbyist DSLR body. I set a maximum ISO in the camera body, ISO 800, because that seemed to be the general consensus of what this camera body could handle. I was in aperture priority mode and just dialed into the widest aperture to try and let as much light in as possible to keep that ISO down. That was so important to me. Keep the ISO down. Halfway through, I went through some of the images, and I'm telling you, my stomach was churning as I realised just how badly wrong I'd got this. Why the shoot was screwed up was because I was crippling the camera with this maximum ISO setting of 800. So of course the camera did what the camera's programmed to do, was it let in the appropriate amount of light using shutter speed. And if anybody's ever tried to photograph anything that moves, and people tend to move with longer shutter speeds, you'll know that it is impossible to get a sharp image. What you end up with is a load of blurry faces and soft images. Now, thankfully, as I was looking through the images and just being absolutely gutted during the meal aspect, I got rid of the maximum ISO setting and let the camera do what it needed to do. I switched over to shutter speed priority for the second half of the shoot, and the images are still not great, but they were better. I managed to send through some images that had some level of clarity to them. But after the event, I remember the organizer ringing me up saying, this company loved this image, but have you got a version where the guys in the back are less blurry? And of course I didn't. So I explained to them why I'd done that, because I didn't want to get noise. And big learning point for me in photography was when they said, what's noise? Truth is, outside of photography, nobody cares. Of course, if you're doing an advertising campaign for 50 grand, that's a different matter. Regular Joe hiring for stuff like this doesn't care less about noise. They don't know what noise is. If they see it in an image, they don't care. It doesn't matter to them. What does matter is having people's faces sharp in an image, not blurred all over the place. The following year, I did my first restaurant shoot, and again sought some advice from fellow photographers who advised me that the best thing for me to do was to get a table as close to the window as possible, because if I was as close to the window as possible, I was going to get the maximum amount of light. But of course, that wasn't the case. I had the sun shining directly in through the window. There was a bus stop right smack bang outside the restaurant, one of the busiest bus routes, passing by every minute and a half. The light constantly changing, shadows constantly being put into the restaurant, and me with my head in my hands as I didn't know what to do next. Nobody knows better than you as the photographer, because when you're doing any kind of photo shoot, if you're the only person who's there, you're the only person who can make the decisions about what's going to be the best setting. Nobody else can tell you beforehand. You've got to embrace the complexity of photography. You've got to master the technicals so you can free yourself as a creative. The best settings will always depend on the context of the photography that you want to capture, in the context of your surroundings, and of course what your vision for the final photograph is. I learned a lot of lessons from those two shoots, and very many more to come as well, with the mistakes that I made and the things that I got wrong. Whenever you feel like you're not making progress with your photography, make some mistakes, because it's those mistakes that teach you how to become a better photographer. I've been Dave. This has been Let's Click Photography. I'll see you guys in the next one pretty damn soon.